Hello everyone, I'm Santiago, and today I'm gonna be talking about the games I would buy in the Steam Autumn Sale 2018. This time around it will be 8 games, trying not to repeat the ones I recommended in the Halloween sale. I'll still put honorable mentions down in the description if you already own any of these. I played all the games I will mention and I'll put a good amount of currencies so you have an idea what your country's prices are. Some might say it's not available or something like that, but that seems to be a bug, so let's get started. First of all, Tomb Raider 2013, 85% off, knocking it down to just $3. This game is always very cheap on sales, just don't get the extra DLC, in my opinion it's not worth it. This is the first game in the latest Tomb Raider trilogy. I enjoyed it a lot back then when it was first released. It's much easier to run nowadays, of course. If you didn't play any of the other modern Tomb Raider games, this is a good place to start. In my opinion it's the best one. Along the game you get to upgrade both your skills and gear in order to open some areas that you couldn't access before, which makes backtracking worth it. This is not an open world game to say it in some way. You can go back to areas you visited before, yes, but it feels more like corridors in most places rather than a huge place, but there are some exceptions. The combat is still good, but sometimes I would have liked harder puzzles on it. Still totally worth it for this price. The Witcher 2 Enhanced Edition, 85% off, knocking it down to $3. Another $3 game. This one hooked me a lot with the story after the prologue. Before that it wasn't that fun, at least in my opinion, but the combat can be a challenge. Once you get used to it and you upgrade some of the main things, it's fine. If you already played Witcher 3, keep in mind that this feels completely different. The levels are much less open and you cannot drink potions during combat. I also recommend a controller for this game, at least in my case it felt just right. And you'll also need to mess with the settings a little bit since some of the options really tank performance. Other than that, I enjoyed my time with this game a lot, and for $3 this is amazing value. The Witcher 3 Game of the Year Edition, 60% off, knocking it down to $19.99. Now I recommend The Witcher 3. With all the DLC, this game is seriously an experience. You get a ton of hours of single player content across different environments. After the main story, there's a lot to do in the DLC as well. The side quests can feel like main quests here. It surprised me a lot with all the things to do and attention to detail. The combat is not perfect, but I found it easier to get used to compared to the previous game. Still, you can download mods to change that if you want. There are many of them out there, and you can also find it on GOG if you want the DRM free version. Rising Storm 2 Vietnam, 67% off, knocking it down to $8.25. I played this a while back, but now I cannot get into it again, unfortunately. This is a very hardcore multiplayer game. You feel like you are in an actual war, which isn't easy to achieve, at least in my opinion. Once I spent a few days playing it, I could survive for a good amount of time, but then I stopped playing for a little bit and I didn't have the patience to get back to it. Expect a very tough PvP experience. Talking with teammates is crucial, so yeah, I recommend it, but for hardcore players only. Warhammer Behrman 2, 50% off, knocking it down to $14.99. This is a very fun co-op game. You can play alone if you want, but with more players it will always be better. You have to advance through stages filled with enemies that come in hordes. It will remind you of Left 4 Dead many times when you're fighting the horde with bosses that can come out of nowhere, but you'll spend way more time using axes, swords or hammers, depending on the class you pick. You can really feel the weight when attacking enemies. It also has a good amount of difficulty settings in case you feel overwhelmed. The price surprised me since this was released around 8 months ago. Dragon's Dogma Darkrise, 70% off, knocking it down to $8.99. I really feel this game is underrated. I haven't finished it yet, but so far with the time I spent on it, I really like the combat when fighting big enemies. When you climb onto them, it reminded me of Shadow of the Colossus, but in smaller scale. Also the running around with less focus on fast travel made me want to spend less time playing it. I still go back to it every now and then. This came to PC much later than console, so I kinda get why it didn't get that much attention. It runs pretty well on PC, but I recommend disabling the Steam overlay. For some reason that improved the performance for me. Metro Redux bundle, 75% off, knocking it down to $10. This includes both Metro 2033 and Metro Last Light. Both of these are amazing, very atmospheric FPS games that take place in a post-apocalyptic Russia many years after a nuclear war. They can be pretty tough since ammo and air can run out pretty quickly, which forces you to explore the environment. There are a good amount of difficulty settings. Some of the options include slower reloading and less ammo to pick up. I finished them a while ago and I really didn't feel the need to replay them in higher difficulties. The levels have some openness to them, but after that that, I got bored repeating them. I'll be testing this franchise in a video tomorrow, so stay tuned. Rainbow Six Siege Standard Edition, 65% off, knocking it down to $13.99 US. This is one of my favorite multiplayer games out there. I'm not into multiplayer in general, but for some reason this kept me hooked. There are two teams, the attackers and the defenders. Both of those teams have different available operators that have different weapons and gadgets, which makes the approach more dynamic. Since some of the operators clearly counter others, a big part of the levels are destructible, which made each round feel different, but it takes some time getting used to it. At first you'll just die over and over, until you understand how the game works. This is the standard edition. You won't be getting to play most of the operators from the get-go. Each season we get new ones. You can get access to that by buying one of the season passes or with the in-game currency. It will require a lot of hours of gameplay to unlock one of those DLC operators, but it's possible to do so if you really enjoy playing the game. This is another game I will play using voice chat or a friend or two at least, if possible. That significantly improves the game since it's more tactical. Okay guys, those are the games I would buy in this sale. There's another sale coming soon at the end of December. I'll be doing a video with more games being recommended. Hopefully we get even lower prices for games or more free games that time around. But yeah, thank you for watching and let me know what you got in the sale down in the comments.